Welcome to British Biomedicine Institute. Today I, Dr. Pramod Khatri, is going to represent a simple topic named as urinary system. So there are two kidneys, two ureters, a urinary bladder and one urethra. So now comes the location of kidney. Basically, kidney are reddish brown, bean shaped, and they are 12 centimeter long, 6 centimeter wide, and 3 centimeter thick. They are present in the posterior abdominal wall at a level of T12 to L3, superior lumbar region. So they are basically retroperitoneal and against the dorsal body wall. The right kidney is slightly lower than the left and it is basically convex in shape, literally, and it is attached to the ureter, renal blood flow and nerves in renal hills, or we can say median indentation. Atop each kidney is an adrenal gland covering the kidneys. So basically the kidney are being covered with adipose capsules which surround the kidney and they provide the protection. They also helps the kidney in its correct location against muscles of posterior trunk wall. Pitosis or kidney drop to a lower portion due to rapid fat loss, creating problem with the ureter. Pitosis can lead to hydronephrosis, which is basically a condition where the urine back up in the ureter and exert pressure to the kidney tissue. So basically your renal capsule is being surrounded by each kidney. So there are three regions in the kidney. First one is renal cortex, renal medulla and renal pelvis. So renal cortex is the outermost region which forms the outer cell. It consists of renal columns or extension of cortex material inward. Renal medulla is basically the inside the cortex. It is present inside the cortex and it contains medullary or renal pyramids. Renal medullary pyramids are triangular regions of the tissue in the medulla and they appear striated. Renal pelvis is the inner collecting tubes which are being divided by major or minor silex. Silexes are basically cup-shaped structures with enclosing the tip of the pyramid that collect and funnel urine towards the renal pelvis. So this is a diagram of your kidney where your renal column, cortex, minor calyx, renal capsules, intralobular veins, articulate veins, lobular artery, segmental artery, renal pelvis, major calyx and urethra are clearly visible. So now comes the function of urinary system. First function is they helps in elimination of waste product. They helps in filtering gallons of fluid from the bloodstream every day, creating filtrate. Filtrate includes your metabolic waste, ionic salt, toxins, drugs. They also helps in maintenance of blood level, your RBC productions by producing hormones like your erythropoietin to stimulate RBC productions in bone marrow. They helps in maintaining blood pressure with the help of vessel size by producing renin which cause vasoconstriction. They helps in blood volume or water balance. ADH will be released from the anterior pituitary which target the kidney to limit the water loss when the pressure blood pressure decrease or change in blood composition. They also helps in maintaining blood composition, or we can say electrolyte balance. Water flow, salt, aldosterone reclaims sodium from the blood. They also maintain pH, blood pH. They helps in regulation of H positive ions and HCO3 ions. So now comes blood flow in the kidney. Basically, there is a rich blood supply to filter blood and adjust blood composition. 1/4 of blood supply passes through the kidney every minute. Renal artery arise from abdominal aorta, divide into segmental arteries at hilus. Inside renal pelvis, segmental artery will divide into lobar artery, which branches into interlobular artery traveling through the renal column to reach the renal cortex. At the medullary cortex junction, the intralobular artery curve over the medullary pyramid in arcuate artery. The small intralobular arterioles, they branches of the articulate artery and move away from the renal cortex into the nephrons of the kidney. The final branches of interlobular artery are known as afferent arterioles. Afferent arterioles leads to glomerulus, which is basically a network of capillaries that are involved in filtration. The leading way from the glomerulus, blood-less filter travels through the afferent arterioles into the peritubular capillaries. And from there, blood moves through similar veins that parallel the arteries in their respective locations. So from here, from aorta, it will move to renal artery, from there to segmental artery, from there to lobular artery, from there to intralobular artery, and then it go to articulate artery, intralobular artery, afferent arterioles, glomerular with the help of capillaries, it will enter to afferent arterioles, then it will go to vasa recta, it will go to intralobular veins, it will go to articulate intralobular veins, and it will go then to renal veins, and it will be through the infravena cava. So this is how your blood flow in the kidney. So now comes the nephrons. So nephrons are the structural and functional unit of kidney. Over 1 million nephrons are present, and they are basically responsible for formation of urine. They consist of renal capsules and renal tubules. Renal capsules composed of knot of capillaries known as glomerulus, or we can say Bowman capsule. Renal tubules are enlarged, closed cup shape, and giving rise to PCT, DLOH, ALOH, DCT, and CD. Glomerulus, they are basically specialized capillary bed fat, and they are drained into arterioles. Glomerular capillaries filter fluid from the blood into the renal tubules. GC is attached to arterioles in both sides in order to maintain high pressure. Large afferent arterioles arise from intralobular arteries, we can say feeder vessels. They are large in diameter, and they have high resistance vessels that force fluid and solutes out of the blood into the glomerular capsules. 99% of filtration will be reclaimed by the renal tubules cells and returned to the blood in pre-tubular capillary bed, or we can say blood vessels which are surrounding the renal tubules. So narrow afferent arteriole, they merges to become a intralobular vein, or they can be a draining vessels. So glomerular capillaries are basically covered with podocytes from the inner or we can say visceral layer of the glomerular capsule. Podocytes have long branching processes called pedicles that intervene into each other and cling to glomerular capillaries. Filtration slit membrane the pedicles from a porous membrane around the glomerular capillaries. The glomerular capillaries sit within a glomerular capsule, or we can say Bowman's capsule. It will expand renal tubules, receive filtered fluid. Renal tubules coil into the PCT, then to DLOH, then to ALOH, DCT, and finally to CD. Along the PCT, much of the filtrate is being reclaimed. So now comes renal tubule. So we can also, it is also known as, or we can say glomerular capsules or Bowman capsules. Basically, they are enlarged in the renal tubules. Proximal convoluted tubules or of the lumen surface is covered by dense microvilli in order to increase their surface area. The descending limb of nephrons, we can say loop of Henle. The ascending limb of nephrons coil tightly against the distal convoluted tubules. Many DCT merge into renal cortex to form a collecting duct. Collecting duct is not a part of nephron. Collecting duct receive blood from nephrons and deliver it to the major calyx or renal pelvis. CD run downward through the medullary pyramid, giving them their stripped appearance. So this is a diagram of your kidney, where your cortex, medulla, ureter and renal pelvis, along with your bowel capsules, glomerulus, efferent arterioles, and they are clearly visible. Loop of Henle, collecting duct, distal tubules, they are also visible. So now comes the blood supply of a nephron. So basically there are peritubular capillaries. These are efferent arteriole which branches into secondary blood capillary bed, and blood will flow under low pressure. The capillary is adapted for reabsorption instead of filtration. Attached to a venule and eventually lead to intralobular veins to drain blood from the glomerulus. Cling closely to renal tubules where they receive solutes and water from renal tube cells, as these substances from the filtrate are being reabsorbed into the blood. Juxtaglomerular apparatus consists or they are present at the origin of DCT. It contact afferent and efferent arterioles. Epithelial cells of DCT narrow and densely packed, known as macula densa. Together with smooth muscle cells, they comprise of juxtaglomerular apparatus, and basically they control renal secretion and indirectly aldosterone secretion. So this is a diagram of your juxtaglomerular complex, where various food processes of podocytes or visceral layer, or we can say proximal tubule cells, glomerular mesangial cells, they are clearly visible, along with your glomerular capsules, efferent arterioles, efferent arterioles, and mucosa macula densa cells, granular cells, they are clearly visible in this diagram. So now comes the type of nephrons. So there are basically cortical nephrons which are located in the cortex, and they also include most of the nephrons. Juxtamedullary nephron, they are basically found at the boundary of cortex and medulla, and their LOH dip deep into the medulla. Now comes the urine formation process. Filtration. Water and solutes, they are similar to smaller than protein, are forced through the capillary wall and pores, or we can say glomerulus, into the renal tubule, also known as Bowman's capsule. Reabsorption, like your water, your glucose, amino acids, and needed ions, they are transported out of the filtrate into the peritubular capillary cells and then enter the capillary blood. Secretion, hydrogen ions, potassium ions, creatinine, drugs, they are removed from peritubular capillaries and secreted by the peritubular capillary cells into the filtrate. Now comes filtration. So basically this is the beginning of urine formation. It occurs at the glomerulus non-selective passage process. Solutes smaller than proteins are forced through capillary walls of the glomerulus, which act as a filter. Fenestration. Basically this is the opening of glomerulus wall, make glomerulus more permeable than arterioles. Podocytes, they cover capillaries, make membrane impermeable to plasma proteins. Blood cell cannot basically pass out of the capillaries. Filtrate is essentially blood plasma with blood proteins and blood cells. Filtrate is collected in the glomerulus, or we can say Bowman's capsules, and leave via renal tubule. Filtration process. Hydrostatic pressure of the blood forces substances through capillary wall. Net filtration pressure normally is positive. Hydrostatic pressure of blood is greater than the hydrostatic pressure of glomerular capsules and osmotic pressure of glomerulus plasma. If arterial pressure falls dramatically, the glomerular hydrostatic pressure falls below level needed for the filtration. The epithelial cells of renal tubules lack nutrients and cell can die. This can lead to renal failure. So this is a diagram of your Bowman's capsules and your glomerular hydrostatic pressure, which is between 55 mmHg. Blood colloid osmotic pressure 30 mmHg, and capsular hydrostatic pressure is between 15 mmHg. Now comes the filtration rate. The rate of filtration is directly proportional to net filtration pressure. There are various regulations for filtration rate. The rate typically constant. It remains constant. It can increase or decrease in order to maintain the hemostasis. And your sympathetic nervous system, they can respond to drops in blood pressure and blood volume. As pressure drops, sympathetic nerve cause vasoconstrictions of afferent arterioles. It can lead to decreased rate of filtration. Less urine can be produced or water will be conserved. As the pressure rises, sympathetic nerve cause vasoconstrictions of afferent arterioles. It can increase the filtration. More urine can be produced and water can be removed. So renin, which has been produced by JGA. Renin is an enzyme controlling filtration rate. Juxtaglomerular cells, they secrete renin in response to 3 stimuli, and they are basically fast responder. They are sympathetic stimulators. They specialized in blood receptors in afferent arterioles, sense and they decrease in blood pressure. Maculotensor, sense decrease in chlorine, chloride, potassium, sodium ion reaching distal tubules. The released renin react to angiotensin in the bloodstream to form angiotensin 1, which is converted to angiotensin 2 by the angiotensin 1 converting enzyme, or I can say ACE. Angiotensin 2 act to vasoconstrict afferent arterioles, where the blood backup in the glomerulus, increasing pressure and maintaining filtration rate. Angiotensin II also stimulate secretion of aldosterone from the adrenal glands. They help in stimulation of tubular reabsorption from sodium and H2O follows. Now comes the reabsorption. It is basically composition of urine is different than the composition of glomerular filtration. Tubular reabsorption returns substances to the internal environment of the blood by moving substances through the renal tubules wall into the peritubular capillaries, which is 99%. Some water, iron, glucose, amino acids. There can be some reabsorption in the passive mode, like your waters, it can go through osmosis, or small ions, it can go through diffusion. Most is active using protein carriers with the help of active transport. Most reabsorption occurs in the proximal convoluted tubules, where microvilli cells act as a transporter, taking up the needed substance from the filtrate and absorbing them into peritubular capillary blood. Substances which remain in the renal tubules become more concentrated as water is reabsorbed from the filtrates. So now comes reabsorption of sodium and water. The sodium potassium pump reabsorbs 70% of sodium ions in the PCT. The positive sodium ion attract negative ion across the membrane as well. The water reabsorption occurs passively across the membrane to area of high solute concentration. Therefore, more sodium reabsorption equals to more water reabsorption. Active transport of sodium ions occur along remainder of nephrons and collecting duct. Almost all sodium ions and waters, they can be reabsorbed. So now comes the materials which are not being absorbed, like your nitrogenous waste products. Materials like your urea, uric acid, creatinine. So urea is formed by the liver. It is the end product of protein breakdown when amino acids are used to produce energy. Uric acid is being released when nucleic acids are metabolized, and creatinine is associated with creatinine metabolism in muscles, tissues, and even your excess water, it will not be reabsorbed. Now comes the secretions, where the reabsorption is reversed. Some materials from the PCT, peritubular capillaries, into the renal tubules to be eliminated in the urine. Example, hydrogen ions like potassium ions, creatinine, drugs, penicillin and histamine. The process is important for getting rid of substances not already in the filtrate or for controlling the pH. Material left in the renal tubules move toward the ureter. So now comes the formation of the urine. Glomerular filtration of material from the blood plasma, reabsorption of substances including glucose, water and sodium, secretion of substances including your penicillin, histamine, hydrogen and potassium ions. Maintaining water balance. So the normal amount of water in the human body for young adult female it is 50%, for young adult male 60%, babies 75%, and old age it is 45%. Water is necessary for many body functions and level must be maintained. Now comes the distribution of body fluid. Intracellular fluids which are inside the cells, extracellular fluids which are outside the cells, like your interstitial fluids and blood plasma, they must be maintained inside the body at equal level. So basically there is a link between water and salt. It changes in electrolyte balances causes water to move from one compartment to another. alter blood volume and blood pressure, can impair the activity of a cell like swelling or edema. Water intake must equal water output. The sources of water intake and output also depends. Intake, like your ingested foods and fluids, water produced from metabolic processes like your glycolysis. Output, vaporization out of the lungs, loss of perspiration, leave the body in the feces or urine production. And dilute versus concentration urine consists of dilute urine is produced if water intake is excessive. Less urine concentrated is produced if large amount of urine is lost. So proper concentration of various electrolyte must be present. Now comes the regulation of water and electrolyte reabsorption. Regulation is primarily done with the help of various hormones like your antidiuretic hormones ADH. They help in prevention of excessive water loss in urine. Neurons in hypothalamus produce ADH, which are released by anterior pituitary gland in response to decrease in blood volume and water concentration. ADH increases the water permeability of the distal convoluted tubules epithelium to perpendicular capillaries. There can be a decreased volume of urine, increased concentration of solutes, and it will also follow negative feedback control. Aldosterone regulate sodium ion content of extracellular fluid, which will be triggered by the RAM, renin angiotensin mechanism. Or they also stimulate a DCT to reabsorb sodium and excrete your potassium. The cells in the kidney and hypothalamus are active monitor for maintaining your water and electrolyte balance. So this is a diagram where there is a balance has been maintained between the water and electrolyte by the various enzymes. So now comes maintaining acid-base balance in blood. Blood pH remains between 7.3 to 7.4 in order to maintain hemostasis. And if there is a alkalosis, the pH will be above 7.4. And if it is acidosis, the pH level will be below 7.3. Most acid-base balance is maintained by the kidney. They will excrete bicarbonate ions if needed. Conserve or generate new bicarbonate ions if needed. Excrete hydrogen ions if needed. Conserve, generate new hydrogen ions if needed. Regulations of these ion reserves result in urine pH ranges from 4.5 to 8. If there is acidic urine, there is a protein-rich diet or starvation or diabetes, then your urine will be acidic. And if a person is taking vegetarian diet or there is a bacterial infection, then there will be a basic urine. So now comes the characteristics of urine which are used for medical diagnosis. Colored somewhat yellow due to pigment urochrome from the destruction of hemoglobin or bilirubin by product or solutes. It can be sterile, slightly aromatic, normal pH of around 6 and specific gravity of 1 to 1.35. Now comes the urine composition. The composition depends entirely on diet, metabolic activity and urine output. 95% of water which contain urea or uric acid, electrolytes and amino acids, their trace amounts, they can be reabsorbed. Volume produced ranges from 0.6 to 2.5 liters per day or 1.8 liter on an average. It depends on fluid intake, body and ambient air temperature, humidity, respiratory rate and emotional state. Output of 50-60 ml per hour is normal. If it is less than 30 ml per hour may indicate kidney failure. Ureter. Basically it is a cylinder tubes which are attached to the kidney to a bladder and they are 10 to 12 inch long and 1/4 in diameter. Their superior ends is continuous with renal pelvis of the kidney. Mucosal lining is continuous with that lining of renal pelvis and bladder below. Enter the posterior aspect of bladder at a slight angle. It runs behind peritoneum. Peristalsis aid gravity in urine transport from kidney to the bladder. Smooth muscle layers in the ureter wall contract to propel urine. There is a valve-like folder of bladder mucosa that flap over the ureter opening to prevent backflow. Renal calculi, it is calculus means little stones. They result in precipitated uric acid salt created by bacterial infections, urinary retention or alkaline urine, and lithotripsy or surgery are common treatment. Urinary bladder. They are smooth, collapsible muscle sacs. They temporarily store urine. They are located retroperitoneally in the pelvis, posterior to the pubic symphysis. Urinary bladder, there are there are three openings. One from the ureter, we can say ureter orifices. One from urethra or internal urethral orifice which drain the bladder. These are the common site for bacterial infections. In male, posterior gland surround the neck of the bladder where it empty into urethra. Urinary bladder wall. There are three layers of smooth muscles, or we can say dendrous muscles. Mucosa made up of transitional epithelium. Walls are thick and folded in an empty bladder which are 2 to 3 centimeter long. Bladder can expand significantly without increasing internal pressure. As it fills, the bladder rises superiorly in the abdominal cavity, becoming firm and pear shape. A moderately full bladder can hold 1 pint of urine. A full bladder can stretch to hold up to the twice of that amount. Urethra. It is a thin-walled tubes that carry urine from the bladder to the outside of the body by peristalsis. The release of urine is controlled by two sphincters. Internal urethral sphincter, which is basically an intravoluntary. It is a thickening of smooth muscles at a bladder or urethra junction. Keep urethra closed when urine is not being passed. External urethral sphincter, basically they are voluntary, and the skeletal muscles that control urine as the urethra passes through the pelvic floor. So urethra basically vary in size in accordance with their gender, and in female the length is 3 to 4 centimeter, and in male it is 20 centimeter, and in female it has been located in the long wall of vagina, whereas in male it is located through the prostate and penis. In female, the main function is to carry urine, and for male it carries urine and a passageway for sperm cells. Female. The feces can enter urethral opening causing urethritis inflammation. Basically it is an inflammation of urethra. Pilitis or polynephrotic inflammation of, it is basically inflammation of kidney. And urinary tract infection, it can be a bacterial infections like dysuria, urgency, frequency, fever, cloudy urine or bloody urine. In male, it is prostatic, membranous and spongy, or we can say penile. Enlargement of prostate gland cause urinary retention. It can be corrected with the help of catheter. Micturition or avoiding. Both sphincter muscles must open to allow voiding. The internal urethral sphincter is relaxed after scratching for bladder, that is 200 ml. Activation is from an impulse which is being sent to the spinal cord, and then back via the pelvic nerves. The external urethral sphincter must be voluntarily relaxed. Inconsistency basically it is an inability to control micturition, and retention inability to micturate. So this was all about the topic. I hope you have gained a lot of clinical information through this presentation. Please like, share, comment our YouTube channel named as British Biomedicine Institute. Good luck, goodbye.